You ready for the combo guards?
I'm born ready.
All right.
And I think people aren't going to like these dudes either.
You don't think so?
No.
I think these names.
No, yeah.
I think these names get people a little bit more excited.
There's one that would be tough to get because he's restricted, but
right.
Even Jerry Reynolds brought him up yesterday.
Yeah, let's see here. So obviously for the combo guards, the number one name on the Kings list is Malik Monk. There is no second. There's a big gap between number one and number two. If the Kings can retain Malik Monk, that is priority free agent number one with a dot for the Kings. But if they can't get Malik, I definitely think some of these guys are really, really good options to provide essentially what Malik gives, and hopefully you can get it at a discounted price like you've gotten Malik these past 2 seasons. Some of the names that have been very, very popular, Gary Trent Jr., who is definitely – he was drafted by the Kings, funny enough, as a second-round pick and then was immediately traded on draft night. Gary Trent has had a pretty decent NBA career so far. He's averaged 14 points per game in his career. Last season started about half the games for Toronto, averaged 13 points per game. Started 44 games the season before that, averaged 17. Season before that, averaged 18 per game. So as somebody who has been a scorer, has came off the bench, has also gotten some starts, I feel like here in Sacramento, he'd probably come off the bench, but I think Gary Trent Jr. is somewhere in between Malik Monk and Terrence Davis. I think he would be a really good player most nights. I don't think he would be as consistent as Malik is, but he would have some nights like TD had where he would just come in and score 20 plus in that game and almost win games by himself with his shooting. Big fan, big fan of Gary Trent Jr. I don't really know what he's going to try and get via free agency. I mean, those are some big numbers there. And he's someone who has made decent money. He's on a $18.5 million player option for this past season. So he's made some decent cheddar in his time and has made over the $12.9 million that the Kings can offer. So he might be somebody who's just straight up out of the Kings bracket.
Right.
DeAnthony Melton is another name that's been thrown out there quite a bit throughout his NBA career. He's like the definition of a combo guard. He's definitely more of a 2, but he plays really good defense. He's long. He's a decent shooter. He's definitely more of your Swiss Army knife at guard. He can maybe play some 3. I think he spent most of his time at the 2 and can slide over to the 1, but DeAnthony Melton's been a name that Kings fans have liked for a while. A name that I'm not so hot on, but I think people like the idea of him, Malik Beasley, who's been around the block but is just a straight-up definition of a volume 3-point shooter. He's been with the Lakers. He's been with the T-Wolves. He's spent some time in Milwaukee as well. 11 points per game the past 2 seasons in LA and in Milwaukee. He started 77 of 79 games for Milwaukee this season, so definitely got a bigger role. But is really just a shooter. He's somebody who took just under 7 threes a game this year, knocked it down at 41%. Last year, he shot 8.5 threes per game, knocked it down at 36%. And that's kind of been where he's hovered. Really since 2020, he's been taking 8 threes a game and been either ranging from upwards of 42% to just under 36%. So volume shooter, can knock them down. And again, is probably somebody that the Kings would want on their team just because of the type of player he is, a guy who can play pretty much like how Kevin Huerter plays right now as long as he's making shots. Got a couple more names left here. KCP is a big name for me. I think KCP, I mean, we talk about the Denver model all the time, literally going from Gary Harris to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and then Paul Millsap to Aaron Gordon was the leap that Denver needed. KCP is available. It makes a lot of sense if the Kings truly do want to build that Denver mold. Get a guy like KCP who's a little bit more defensive minded, but can hit shots, maybe like your modern day Danny Green, and add him to this rotation. And I think he's somebody who could really start games for you and obviously has all the experience needed that you would want if you are going to try and build this thing out to a champion. Bruce Brown, a name that was thrown out quite a bit last year. He's a combo guard, obviously was a huge impact player for the Nuggets in their title run. He has a $22.5 million team option. Maybe Toronto accepts that and uses him as a trade piece, maybe he declines it, or they decline it, I should say. I'm sure Bruce Brown wants that accepted because I don't know if he'll ever make $22 million again.
Right.
Josh Richardson is another name. He's kind of somebody who's been out of the light these past couple of years. He's just a solid role player, really good too. Is definitely more of a shooter, but can provide some defense and some length. And then the name that you mentioned up at the top, the one that interests you, but he is a restricted free agent. This is somebody that Whitey Gleason has been huge on. Every time we talk about free agency, Whitey always makes sure to bring up Isaac Okoro, who is currently on the Cleveland Cavaliers, was drafted to the Cavs, and is also a bit of a Swiss Army knife, is kind of a really strong physical player, is a great defender, and you just kind of hope that he can knock down threes. He knocked down 39% of his threes on just over 3 attempts this year, so definitely has gotten a little bit better and a little bit more trustworthy from beyond the arc. And that's it. That is the list. So for combo guards, we have Melton, we have Gary Trent Jr., we have Malik Beasley, KCP, Bruce Brown, Josh Richardson, and Isaac Okoro. For the ball handlers, we have Monty Morris, Tyus Jones, DeLon Wright, Reggie Jackson, and Russell Westbrook.
I like Bruce Brown. I mean, what if the team declines that option? Who knows what the Raptors are trying to do? I like Bruce Brown. You know, with DeAnthony Melton, I used to always get them confused. There's DeAnthony Melton, and then there's Shake Milton.
Yes, yeah, and they've both been on the Sixers.
And they were both
I think
on
they
the
both
Sixers.
are on the Sixers. So, yeah.
So that
I think
one
Shake's
always,
also a free agent.
Yeah, Gary Trent Jr. I like as well. Malik Beasley, probably not as high for me as I just maybe Gary Trent Jr. and KCP. I don't know. I mean, the Laker fans couldn't stand KCP, and then he got hot with the Nuggets, but I don't know who the real KCP is, right? I feel like you're either going to go young and take a bit of a shot, or you're going to go with somebody who you know what they're going to give you. Yeah. And I'm not sure. I feel more confident, oddly enough, in Bruce Brown than KCP.
I will say KCP, 3 of his last 4 seasons, has shot over 40% from 3 on over 4 threes per game. So that would be the hope for KCP, is that he continues to be a good shooter when asked to be, and definitely the defense for KCP would be the thing that you hope is still there. But he is 30 years old. Will be entering, I mean, if you're signing him 3-year deal, 31 to 34. It's just a matter of how much you believe his body's going to hold up. He's been somebody who's played a lot of games in his career, has been really, really consistent. 77 games 3 years ago, 76 2 years ago, 76 last year. He's played a ton of games, has been really, really reliable, but has also played a ton of playoff games as well. And those are all miles on his body that, at some point it's gonna stack up. So it's a matter of if you're willing to bet that KCP is going to continue to be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I like the names on this list. I'd be happy with any of them, but number one on my list, I do, like you said, if you're talking about microwave, I do like Gary Trent Jr. Yeah. Gary Trent Jr. strikes me as a guy who will play up, obviously Isaac Okoro as well, but restricted. Gary Trent Jr. strikes me as a guy who will play up when it's time to play up. He's kind of just been cast aside in Toronto, and he's not really playing with the purpose. I feel like if Gary Trent Jr. gets an opportunity to play with the purpose, he will do just that. Great stuff, Chris. And I know that Frankie and Brennan can't wait to get their hands on that as well.
We've got a lot more.
Catch that on SactownSports.com. And we know the Kings need wings. We know we will have wings. We will have everything in between throughout this week and the rest of the offseason. When we return, we get back into some Malik Monk